the level of technology, but yes, understanding of culture and understanding of the labor law is very, very important. Now, something related to what we have been discussing so far, although we are going to revisit these topics in the form of presentations by the group members from the class. I'll be very soon assigning you the topics, and you will be making presentations. You'll be prepared, presenting the cases before the class. And that is why perhaps I'm not going, I'm not delving deeper into the topics so that we get enough time for presentations and case discussions. Am I with you? Can you hear me?
Yes, so you are audible.
Yes. Fine. Now, as students of management, and you have already completed one semester, you have been exposed to the different principles of management, the concepts of management, the different issues related to what you call as organizational structure. I want your response. What do you understand by organizational structure? I don't want it in definition. Just what is your understanding? Yes.
So maybe the different hierarchies of the employees.
Okay, good. You are there. You're talking about the hierarchy, or you may also call it as the formal relationships which exist in an organization. What is the formal structure? How the organization is formed? What are the different layers? As you said, hierarchies, right? That means what are the different layers or levels in an organization? Who is at the top, followed by the next layer of managers, the top level managers, the middle level managers, and the first line managers or the first level managers, right? So why do we need to have a structure at all? That is a very basic question, and especially nowadays when we are having virtual organizations, the world is gradually moving towards the virtual organizations. Why do we need to have a structure for organizations? That is my petition before you.
So it is needed so that every
Yes. Why do we need structures?
Achieve goals.
Your audio is not clear.
So to achieve goals.
Okay. Somebody else?
So it provides efficient communication between different levels of employees.
Okay, very good. That's one, one of the major functions. The flow of communication in the organization. So a structure facilitates, right, how the messages or different communications what will be the direction of flow of communication, how the communication is going to, originate, and when and where it is going to terminate, who are the senders, who are the receivers, what are the different channels. So very true. The structure decides and defines the flow of communication. In fact, it provides a channel for communication in an organization. What else? What else?
So distribution of roles and responsibilities.
Very good. Can you explain distribution of roles and responsibilities? Very true.
So different responsibilities for upper and middle level management.
Okay. So for the top managers, generally the role is more strategic in nature. It is more about decision making. It is more about policy formulation and communicating it to the middle level and subsequently to the lower level, where all those policies need to be, executed or implemented. So very true. At the middle level, again, it is more of, coordination. The middle level managers, they are more about coordinating with the different functional units of an organization. And at the first level or the first line managers, they are more about, implementation of the orders that have been issued to them. So an organizational structure or organizational design, it is about the distribution of roles and responsibilities. It is about the power and authority relationships. And it is a general observation that those who are at the top, they have greater power. That power can be because of their position. It can be because of their expertise. Right. It can be also be because of their ability to, reward or punish the other people. So it can be, you may call it as an expert power. It can be called as a, reward power. So at the top, we find that there is a concentration of power, and that power is often used for the smooth functioning of the organization. The top managers, they use this power to authorize the lower levels or the levels below them to the managers who are, subordinate to them, and through their authority they try to delegate power, right? So power is delegated by the upper levels of management to the lower levels of management to accomplish certain goals or tasks which are assigned to them. Another important aspect of the organizational structure, I mean, I'm sure it is just like some kind of a, revision that, of the principles that we have already done. Another important thing is the element of control. How many managers are, they are subordinate to you. So they are directly under your control. They have a reporting relationship. Like you as a manager, you issue them the directives or the orders. You communicate to them the orders to do certain jobs or certain activities, certain tasks in order to achieve the organizational goals. In return, they perform those tasks and report back. And they give you a report. They tell you that this is the job which we have been able to do, and maybe this is the job we have not been able to do. So, reporting relationships, in fact, you must have also come across a jargon like staff relationship and line relationship. Can somebody recall? Yes. Or line function or staff function. Anybody having an idea?
So it is a kind of relationship where one of them delegates responsibilities or tasks to others.
Okay. Okay. Now, in the layman's term, we can say that the line relationships are directly related with the job which is being assigned. Like, for example, if you are in the sales and marketing department, so all those people who are doing the job related to sales and marketing, whether it is in terms of sales promotions, whether it is in terms of advertising and communications, whether it is in terms of distribution and managing the dealership network. So all these people, when they report to the manager who is in the sales and marketing department, so this is a relationship which is called as a line relationship. It is directly related to, you may say, to the generation of revenues. The same may go for the operations management, where the main job is to produce the desired products and services as per the given specifications, as per the given quality standards. But in addition to that, there are certain functions like IT, the IT support, or to a certain extent, even the HR function. They are called as support functions. They are called as the staff relationships. Maybe you have a vice president HR and you are, say, an assistant sales manager, right? So with a vice president marketing, you have a line relationship, direct line relationship, because that person is commanding, or that person is managing the sales and distribution, sales and marketing function, and you have a designation in that particular department. But your relationship with vice president HR, will that be of a staff relationship? That person is not there to do your that person may not be in a position to give you any task, or assign you some kind of a work, right? The only thing is that the HR function or finance function or IT function, they are they are kind of still considered to be as support services or the support departments, and that's why you'll have a staff relationship with them, or you may also call it as an indirect relationship, right? So in an organization, broadly speaking, you have the four functional areas. You have the marketing, you have finance, you have HR, you have operations, and sometimes operations and IT are combined. And in some organizations, IT is considered to be a separate staff function, right? So, in order to achieve the organizational goals, in order to achieve the organizational objectives, in order to, work out the strategy of an organization, you need to have a structure. The There are different types of organizational structures. There are vertical hierarchical systems like the way we have in the Indian bureaucracy, the Indian civil services, which follows a very, very, strict hierarchy, right? In every communication, and there's a lot of, what you may call as elaborate filing system, and the communication generally nowadays, in order to expedite the things, internet and the WhatsApp and all these are being used, but it is a very, very formal system where you need to have a very, very efficient filing system, because the files move from one level to another, right? It's a both way movement of the files, and the people at the different levels, they put up their notings on the files, and finally the decision making rests with those who are at the top, right? So it is a more, I would say, centralized system. There's a very, very strong element of control. Whereas there are organizations which may be considered as flat. I mean, they might not be having many layers, and at the same time, you will find that there is more informal relationships between the managers in such organizations, and maybe this is, I mean, they are these organizations are such which are I would say, which are more believe in speedy decision making, and they don't want any wastage of time in terms of movement of files and taking clearance at each and every step from the different managers who are designated, who have been given some fancy designation, and they have been placed at some different levels. So ultimately what we see is that an organizational structure is an arrangement of, it basically is an arrangement of activities. It is an arrangement of jobs which are to be performed at different levels. So the first thing is, which needs to be decided, is that what are the different activities which need to be performed and where they will be performed, who will perform them. Like, for example, the making of a strategic plan, making of policies and procedures. So it is very obvious that this sounds to be something which requires deliberation by those people who have high amount of conceptual skills. I mean, they are the people who have a lot of experience, and they have, a lot of conceptual skills which are required to do such jobs. So naturally, for doing this job, you need to have the top level managers with designations like Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Vice President or President, like that, right? And then subsequently, if you need to, look at activities like coordination, communication between the different, functional areas, between different business units, collaboration. So in such a situation, you need to have the middle level managers like branch managers or deputy managers, right? Assistant vice presidents. Such can be the designations. And finally, at the lower level, where the real work takes place, the sales managers, assistant sales managers, finance officers, assistant finance officers, like this. So first you identify the activities which are required to be done, and then they are assigned to the managers who are placed at different levels, right? And placing them at different levels basically ensures the, as we were discussing, ensures the element of control, the element of the the authority, the power relationships in an organization, the flow of communication, the the coordination within the different functional areas. And this becomes, all these jobs become somewhat more challenging when an organization is growing. If it is a simple small organization with maybe just one or two products, it is much more easier to manage with less number of people at its corporate office. But gradually, when the organization is growing, it is able to produce more number of products and services. It is entering into different types of product lines. It is also having its presence in service sector. And when it is reaching out beyond the domestic, what you may call as the national borders, when an organization is becoming international in nature. So in such a situation, the task becomes somewhat more challenging. So what should be the different types of organizational structures? What could be, on what lines the organization can be designed or structured so as to manage not only the domestic business but also to manage the overseas business more, in a more effective, in a more professional way. Do you have any idea about the different types of organizational structures? There's a variety of them.
So
Yes.
one of them is matrix, another is flat,
Okay.
and there are some more which I cannot recall right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So what is a matrix organization?
So it is a combination of some two different types of structure.
Okay.
Answer flat. Flat is where usually we follow the basic hierarchical model, but flat is the structure where it attempts to disrupt the traditional management type, the structure,
Okay.
traditional management structure.
Okay. Any other idea?
So matrix structure is a combination of functional and divisional structure.
Very good. Okay.
So in
So-
functional,
Yes.
functional
Please carry
organization
on.
structure, people usually do similar tasks like same function,
Right.
and in
So-
divisional, yes.
Okay. Okay. You're right. Very, very true. I mean, you can just carry on.
So in divisions, it is like to forming a group to meet the needs of a certain type of customer, like based on the same project or team.
Okay. So there are different types of organizational structures. There are different categories. One is known as the functional organizational structure, where the organization is structured. I mean, the pattern follows. It tries to, segregate the different functional areas. Like on top, you have the chief executive officer, and then you have the vice president, sales and marketing, vice president, finance, vice president, HR, and vice president, operations. So, so these are the four functional areas, and below each one of them, then say under the vice president marketing, you have the say the branch manager marketing, and then you have the deputy sales manager, assistant sales manager, like that. Similarly for finance department. So this is obviously a very, very basic kind of a structure, and this may be followed in case of organizations which are just, kind of startups, and they don't have many products. Maybe they just have one or two products to offer to the market, and so such basic structure can work for them. And there is a strong need to coordinate between the different functional areas, and that coordination, is done by the top level manager. If whether it is a chief executive officer or managing director, right, depending upon the designation that is being used. As against this, now in this kind of a structure, since the functional areas are clearly defined, so each manager then they know that the work which is assigned to them, there's a clear, it's more like division of work. Everybody knows what is expected of me, what I am supposed to do, who is my immediate boss, who is my subordinate, right? So it is a very, very simple thing. A marketing manager knows that the finance or operations or the HR people, they are the support, they are the supporting arms for their functional areas. And the same goes for the rest of the functional areas. And there is, this ensures that there is less of interference from other areas. But at the same time, there is a very, very strong need of coordination. You need to have a higher manager who can coordinate between the different functional areas. And there is this very, very strong need for communication across the different, functional areas, because ultimately the organizational objectives will be achieved through, a concerted effort on part of each of these functional areas, right? I'll not go into the details. We'll subsequently come to that. Then you also have a structure which is based on product. When an organization becomes big and it has several product lines, right? Like, for example, the Unilever, right? The fast food giant, it is into services, it is into food products. Within the food products, there is, then it is into the detergents, it is into the personal care products. So these are, most of them, they're all fast moving consumer goods, but they require different type of treatment. You need to have what you call as product specialists. And that is why in Unilever's, you will find the organization is structured based on product specialization. So you will have obviously on the top, the chief executive officers and other top level managers, but at the lower levels, you have, say, a complete division which is dedicated to, say, detergents, a complete division which is dedicated to, say, the hair care products or systems, a complete division dedicated to, say, ice creams and like that. So in such a situation, the managers are called as the product managers, and they are managing specific products and brands in the market. And for them, you have centralized, say, the finance and HR, and say, obviously operations will be different for each one of them, but the HR and finance will be the staff functions for them. So in such a case, when an organization is growing and it has a lot of product lines, in such a situation, you can have a structure which is based on product specialization, or you can also call it as a product structure. Metric structure you have talked about, it is also called as a project structure. I mean, it is a temporary arrangement. In many companies, especially the engineering companies or contracting firms, which have a certain project which they want to, say, which they have at hand and which they need to finish. So for that, they have specialists related to that project. So they are the ones who are in the, doing the line function, while the functional areas of an organization, like, say, finance, HR, marketing, operations, they are kind of superimposed over them. So in such a situation, those people who are, working in a project or in a metrics kind of an organization, so they often have an issue with a problem. They see problems in case of reporting relationships, because on one hand they are reporting to their functional area boss, or their, the superior or the superior manager, who is directly related to them, who is having a line relationship. But at the same time, they are also required to, kind of report to the managers who is not having a line relationship, but say there is a finance manager, so you need to report to that person, because that is how project situation demands. And it is obviously a temporary arrangement, and this double reporting relationship or superimposition of structures of one over another is warranted. It is required mainly because you need to finish the projects as per the deadlines given, and hand over the project. Once the project is over, just hand over it to the client and move on to the next projects. Generally, such kind of an example that would be of a company like Larsen and Toubro, which is an engineering firm, and it is into the turnkey projects. So even its presence in the overseas markets, especially in the Middle Eastern markets, is that it is very much into construction of airports. And so once that project is over, so they move on to the new projects, and that's why they need to have the metrics organization. And one last thing before we wind up, and that is the organizational structure, which is based on the what you call as the area, the geographical area. Again, now this is more relevant to the international business. As the organization is expanding, it is having its presence in across different continents, across different countries. So you can have a structure wherein you can have regional managers. You can divide the organization into different regions, say the Southeast Asian region, Middle East and North Africa, North America, South Americas, like that, or the Australasia, like this. There are different categorization based on the presence of the business. And it is generally considered that, say, for example, if there's a region of, say, Middle East and North America, so that is the region where you find the Arab population and a very some of the common culture, and even the law is derived from the Islamic Sharia. So depending upon the commonalities, depending upon the common market, the language, the law, and all these things, so you can divide the market on the basis of region. Similarly, for Southeast Asia, you find that the taste and preferences, the climatic conditions, and the legal framework, the ability to move between different countries, all these things give a reason to consider that Southeast Asian as a separate region, like that. So in such a situation, you can pattern your organization on the basis of the geographical spread. So this is where we will wind up today's discussion. Next time when we meet, we'll continue. I mean, this was obviously an introduction to what what we'll be discussing in the subsequent classes. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.